the heart and soul behind every business. Stories. Welcome to Business Story of the Week, hosted by me, Joshua Laurie. From setbacks to comebacks, from tragedies to triumphs, we inspire entrepreneurs through conversations that matter. Witness the magic that turns dreams into reality. Whether it's your career, business, or life, your success is always one story away. This is Business Story of the Week. And welcome back, folks. Welcome back to Business Story of the Week. I am your host, Joshua. And today's question is, why is internal dialogue so important? And what does it have to do with boosting your confidence or transforming your external life or your overall quality of life? But why is internal dialogue so important? And it's a question that I love asking. And our guest today is the perfect person, the perfect guest to answer that question. Lenora Edwards, board certified speech language pathologist and chief knowledge officer at Better Speech. She is an expert in the field of communication with over 15 years of experience and certifications in neuro-linguistic programming and holographic memory resolution. We need to talk about that. Lenora excels in enhancing workplace communication and mastering internal dialogue. And Lenora guides adults in refining their communication skills to effectively manage both personal and professional interactions. Through tailored evidence-based techniques, she helps clients navigate their inner dialogue, enhancing clarity and confidence. This approach not only improves presentation skills and interpersonal relationships, but also drives success and fulfillment in all aspects of their lives. I am very excited for the topic today. Lenora, thank you for joining us today. Thank you so much for being on the show. How are you doing?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me. I am ecstatic to spend time with you and to dive into this topic. How is your week going so far?
Well, the week has been great. I've been doing a lot of shows, been doing a lot of this, and like I said before we talked into this, I feel like I've improved when it comes to my speech, I feel like I'm a pretty good talker, but there's always something to learn, and I'm very, very excited to learn from you today. But Lenora, has it always been, talking? Has it always been about talking? I want to know what the young Lenora was like. Was she talkative? Was she always communicative? Was she always bubbly and outgoing? Talk to us about that journey. What led you into, this path that you are on right now? What was the young Lenora like?
Oh, that is such a fun question. Young Lenora, she's quite talkative, but there were a lot of filler words in her speech and it was quite scattered.
Okay.
And even as I was growing up, my articulation was fine, but as I would talk, especially when I was in middle school and high school, I would say like, and every other word. And my dad would constantly point it out to me going, stop saying like, Lenora. And it really is something that I'm quite tuned into. And if you start to notice it, you'll hear it in other people's speech and your brain actually gets tired from hearing it so frequently because it's trying to follow the thought process. And when we have all these filler words, it really distracts from what we're actually communicating.
Very interesting. Lenora, what was the pivotal moment? What was the pivotal moment in that childhood, maybe throughout your life? Why get into speech language pathology? What got you interested there?
I really liked communicating, and I had always liked communicating. The first class that I actually took was in sign language. And as a 100% Italian, so I'm naturally expressive. But when it was very specifically about sign language, I thought it was just so beautiful. And as I started to lean in more into that area when I was in college, the whole field just really lit me up. And I just thought it was quite fascinating. It's when we talk about communication, we are born with the ability to understand language, but we don't know the difference between a spoon or a fork. And everything, our entire world is built on what we understand and how we express, how we see our environment, how we interpret our environment, how we make sense of it, and how we communicate to it.
And it all starts with words. It all starts with
Yeah.
what we interpret with those words, what we incorporate with the meaning of those words, and we start to
Oh, yeah.
form ideas with this. And it starts with physical, perhaps the most common tools and items that we see in our vicinity. But then I feel like as we grow up, we start really coming up with inner dialogue, right? And I think
Oh,
that's a
yeah.
question that we talk about. This is a question that you also ask and answer a lot. You specialize in helping individuals transform negative self-talk into positive internal dialogue. First off, what does this mean, and what are some practical strategies you recommend for achieving this transformation?
So, when it comes to our internal dialogue, it is so important. And there really isn't a lot of understanding as to why it's so important. And sometimes, especially as you get into the world of personal growth and personal development, you might hear things like, oh, well, just be positive, think a happy thought,
Mhm.
these limiting thoughts or these negative thoughts. What does that all mean? How do we start to shift it? And
Mhm.
really, it becomes
Wow.
into the being the detective of how you're thinking, the things that you're saying to yourself on the regular. And when it comes to our internal dialogue, when we're talking about communication and we go out into the world and we're entrepreneurs or we're being a part of companies and we're wanting to
Mhm.
communicate, we can very quickly go from, I know what I'm talking about, to I have no idea what I'm talking about. And our
Right.
internal
Right.
dialogue will quite
Uh-huh.
literally sabotage us when we're
Right.
presenting or when we're talking to
Mhm.
other people. And it's so important because what's going on in here is also really what we're projecting out to the world. And it
Precisely.
comes up in our speech all the time. Oh, I
Absolutely.
can't do that. Oh, are you sure I can do that? And
Mhm.
as we're saying things, we're reinforcing our own
Yes.
concern in our own
That's it.
abilities,
That's it. That's it.
of our
That's it.
worth, of our confidence, of our skill
That's
set.
it.
And this idea of fake it till you make it, yeah, that's a great one, but
Mhm.
you have to actually be able to carry through with it. What's going
That's
on
it.
in here? If you have a voice that's going, you're a liar, you're not good enough, you're
Mhm.
terrible, that's
Mhm.
really going to weigh you down.
That's true. That's true. And
Yeah.
that's it. And it feels like the fake it till you make it really involves actually following through on the internal. If you are going to
Hmm.
tell that to yourself, I mean, you tell it, tell it, reinforce it with positivity, so to speak. And that's something that's we're not really taught to us really growing up, right? We're just
Oh,
expected to
yeah.
kind of just learn it on ourselves. But now you're
Oh, yeah.
teaching that. And this is something that you're telling people to get rid of the negative self talk and go into positive internal dialogue. What was the inspiration behind this? Did anything? Did you encounter anything in particular that felt like, oh wow, this is it. This is something I want to teach. This is something that I've always wanted to learn. And again, what would be some practical strategies?
Practical strategies, and you did ask me that before. So one in particular is there's a beautiful TEDx by Amy Cuddy, and she talks about power poses, and
Oh,
really getting into the stance of feeling confidence and the position of
mhm,
feeling confidence.
mhm,
When we're standing with, you can think Superwoman or Superman, hands on your hips, or that victory pose, and we hold this for 2 seconds.
mhm.
Now, you can do this
Really?
first thing in the morning. You can do
Okay.
this in the bathroom. You can do this anywhere, and you might feel ridiculous. But
Okay.
what's happening is we're having a chemical, hormonal, physical response. Our brain
Interesting.
and our body are quite literally tuning. Get your physiology into feeling
Wow.
confident. Shift your breathing, shift your posture.
Very interesting.
As you do, your neurology will follow. And the reason
Wow.
it's so important is because if you think of somebody who's very down, very sad, very depressed, you probably are thinking somebody that's hunched over, their head's
Mhm.
down.
Yes.
This position of leaning over reinforces chemical hormonal balance of being weighed down, of
Wow. I
not
love it.
feeling like you're confident. So, really,
I
your
love it.
posture, your breathing goes completely into how you feel. So, that's one quick exercise. Look into power poses and
Power
really
poses.
understand how you can feel confident and then
Yes.
hold it. Allow your
Hold it.
body to hold it for a period of time, 2, 3, 4 minutes.
Okay.
You're going to notice a massive shift. Another
I
great
love
one
that.
is you can do that, but also turn on a piece of music that really inspires you. If you're not in the mood to
That's
go to
it.
the gym, some earbuds
That's
and
it.
shift
Yeah.
into getting that music going and feel that shift. These are things that really do impact us.
I love
So that's
that.
one quick exercise that you can do and start to incorporate it in your day. I'm very functional. I love functional things that we can apply and not have to put an hour away for it.
Exactly. I love it.
When it comes to me, very specifically, I experienced an eating disorder, and how that came about was a variety of things. And as I was trying to help myself in the world of personal growth and figuring out, I know something's wrong. I know this isn't good. How can I help myself? I really started to learn more about how I'm thinking. And I'd notice my own thoughts would make me feel bad. And that's a very accurate statement. You know, if you get stuck in a negative loop, you feel really bad, and all of a sudden you don't want to go do this thing that you thought you were going to want to do. So our thoughts are constantly playing into how we feel throughout the day. So it's really important to, I love this one by Jim Rohn. He says, every day stand guard at the doorway of your mind. Notice your thoughts. Notice what's coming in. Notice what you're entertaining, and then really start to work to shift it. It's so truly important that it's not just think a positive thought and no, there's no weeds. Everything's great. No, things aren't always great, but work with it. Find ways to overcome it. Find ways to navigate with those things that are going on in your mind. As you do, you're going to notice that you're going to feel better. You're going to show up differently. You're going to feel more confident. And it has this beautiful way of going from the internal to the external and really changing the way you live your life.
I love that. It almost feels like your feelings are valid, your emotions are valid, how negative they might be, but it's the way you act on it, right? It's, do you take in that negativity? Do you wallow in that negativity? Or, like you said, stand guard, and do these things that actually benefit you. Of course, music, I love music. You pop on your playlist and you just jam to it. You love that. Yeah. But I particularly love the victory pose. Would a flex be considered? Would that be considered a victory pose? And
absolutely.
I feel like, right, that these things, especially standing guard with your thoughts, are things that again are not really taught to us. Right? They're not really quite as growing up. But now we're learning that okay, these thoughts are just thoughts, and then we have better control of them. But more importantly, they have such massive implications in our lives. You also talk about modulating tone, which is a crucial aspect of effective communication. How does modulating tone not only affect the external communication, but is there also an effect of internal positivity when it comes to modulating your own tone?
Completely. And I love that. When it comes to our tone, the reason it's so important is because when you are having a critical voice in your head and you're noticing it, notice the tone attached to it. It's usually not like, oh, you're not good enough. It can be way more aggressive. And that's going on in your internal environment. When we're communicating, and when I work with my communication coaching clients, what we want to be able to teach is how to speak with authority, but also with sincerity. You don't want to come across as aggressive, and you don't want to come across as passive. Are you okay? Or, yes, I'm going to do this. Right. There is a grace and there is a very specific tone that you want to carry, especially as a professional. And you mentioned earlier, we often think we're going to figure it out or it'll just come naturally to us. And these skills don't necessarily come naturally to us. One of the best decisions I've ever made in my life was to continue to work with coaches. And it boggles my mind that we encourage children to have soccer coaches. We encourage children to have swim coaches and baseball and soccer and football, all these coaches. But when it comes to communication, or when it comes to confidence, when it comes to being an effective communicator, we almost are like, oh no, I don't need that. And it's not something that's supported and celebrated. It's almost as like, you should be embarrassed. You shouldn't tell somebody that that's what you're working on. And really, it should be completely celebrated. You care so much about how you're communicating that you look to other experts. Just like you care so much about how you perform soccer, you look to other experts. You care so much about how you swim and you meet these milestones and these markers or these Ironman competitions. You hire coaches for that. Why wouldn't you hire a coach for effectively communicating so that you can not only build the relationship with yourself, but you build your relationships with your colleagues and with your significant others? It's a great thing.
Absolutely. It is a great thing because, well, if a really effective communication really starts with you, and if you can find someone to teach that being, self-care, self-love, being kind to yourself, communicating kindly to yourself, if you're able to find someone to help you that, I think that's the most important, priceless coaching you could ever get. But like you said, unfortunately, it's almost like we are shamed as adults to like, you gotta figure it out. You gotta know by now on your own, right? You
Yeah.
don't need help. Who needs help? You're an
Yeah.
adult. But
It's
again, it goes
wild.
back to that. It's wild. It goes back to that
Yeah.
negative self-talk, right? It's become so common that we literally live on that self-talk, negative self-talk, because we think that that's what's going to push us. But actually, talking to yourself kindly, with gentleness. But
Mm-hmm.
again, I love that you are incorporating everything, including body posture, perception, tone modulation. Can you elaborate a lot more on some of the tips that you and how individuals can enhance their communication effectively, especially when it comes to trying now to connect with others and making sure that the conversation is meaningful, is memorable.
Oh, absolutely. I love that. Even if we think about Gary Vee or Simon Sinek, and we think, especially when we hear words like talk kindly to yourself,
Mhm.
it can sometimes come across as rainbows and sunshine or self care. Our self care culture would have you think, oh, it's candles in a bubble bath and just be a little bit nicer to yourself. And it's not that at all. Self care is really knowing how to talk to yourself. And in that, you get to say, I'm going to allow myself permission to stop hustling and be completely pumped up on 5 gallons of caffeine. And I'm going to allow myself to really get quality sleep and to also put myself on a routine. And that's care. I'm going to allow myself to talk kinder
I love
to myself. I don't have to beat myself up on the regular. I can also call myself out and say, you know what, Lenora, you might be being a little too lazy right now. Let's pick it up. You've taken a couple of days off. That's how I effectively talk to myself. I didn't have to call myself every name in the book. I can simply say, you know what? Now it's time to come out of this gear and get back into a gear where we can feel a bit more productive. And being aware of that tone, how we talk to ourselves, is so important, especially because when we talk to a friend, when we have those satisfying conversations, or when we go and talk to a supervisor, or if we're in the entrepreneurial world and we're making these connections, be present, as in put your phone away. We have to really find ways to look people in the eye and engage them. And I tell my communication coaching clients this all the time. Practice the art of engaging other people. Practice the art of communication.
I love
And it can be go to the cashier and say, hi, how are you? How's your day
Yes.
going? Are you
Yes,
almost
yes.
done with your shift? What do you get to do after the time that you're done with your shift?
I love
These are
that.
quick ways to engage with another human, to really present in the moment, and to also practice your communication skills.
That's it.
And you're going
That's
to
it.
be gone in 60, 90 seconds because you're checking out at the cashier. You're gone anyway. But what's important is that you took the time to acknowledge another person. You
That's
took
it.
the time to really make that human connection, have that eye contact, have
I
that
love
social
that.
interaction, and you took the time to be present. Now you quite literally get that chemical hormonal balance of, oh, that was so nice. And we think of it as such a meaningless type thing. And you're like, oh, I'm too busy for that. Let's go back to the 70s and the 80s. People were doing that. Even in the 90s, people were doing that. And it really makes a huge difference. We're naturally social creatures. And people might say, I have social anxiety. I don't like to do that. Allow yourself to lean into it
That's it.
in
That's it.
small, micro amounts. You don't have to
That's
go
it.
out on a date with them. Literally, just engage them. They're serving you ice cream. You're picking up a coffee. You're swapping groceries. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And take those few moments. Have the eye contact. Have the
I love it.
conversation.
That's it.
Be human. Our phenomenal ways to practice the art of communication on a regular basis and not these high stakes situations. We're not in a meeting, we're not doing public speaking, but what happens is our nervous system really starts to get more comfortable in that engagement. And we get these happy emotions, which really feed our brain and make us feel better. And it's a great way to have that functionality in how we communicate on a regular basis.
Lenora, you already made me feel better just by listening to all of that. I mean, it's lovely. Your tone, everything, the way you talk about it, it's just absolutely lovely. It feels like, sunshine and butterflies and all that. And and if that isn't communication, right? That's practicing, connection, being, relating heart to heart, because you mentioned about being there, being present. In what I've learned is called there's be here where you are there, but there's also be with, right? Like you have to be human, be with. You actually be with me, because you can be next to me, but you're not actually with me. And I love that. You reminded me of that. But more importantly, I love how you pointed out that, hey, it's this one small interaction with this random person, with this random stranger, could make their day. It could make their week. But I think it's not as commonly talked about how much it also affects us, how much it also gives back to us. Because these small interactions, they can compound. And then when it comes to high stakes talks, when you start really need to talking to your boss, then you can come back to those moments and be like, hey, I was able to talk to this person, relate to them. And it all comes back, and it's just lovely. I love how you talk about that. I love how you talk about in such a tone that it's just you teach this concept in a very lovely manner that people should learn it and must learn it, but most importantly for themselves first. Because if anything, talk to yourself first, very kindly.
Very much so. Very much so. I love that.
And Lenora, so you started Better Speech, and
I work with Better Speech.
You work with Better Speech, rather.
I work with Better Speech, yes. I did not start it, but it is a phenomenal company.
Right. You are the Chief Knowledge Officer, and again, you are this board certified speech language pathologist over at Better Speech.
You got it.
Talk to us. Where can we find you? Where can we learn more about Better Speech? But mostly, Lenora, you yourself, or you on any socials, would love to get to know you. Would love to hear more of you. I personally would love to hear more of your advice and your voice. Let us know.
I love that. Thank you. Visiting us at Better Speech and betterspeech.com is the best way to get in touch with us. And what I love about this company is as a speech language pathologist, most people will say, well, how's my speech? As in, how's my speech intelligibility? Am I speaking okay? And a lot of the time people will think that we work with children, of which we do. And we also work with adults, and we work on the art of communication, truly being able to have those conversations, knowing how to navigate those situations, whether it's public speaking, whether it's asking for a raise, whether it's knowing how to stand and speak your ideas and your thoughts in a meeting with integrity, without coming across as aggressive, without not speaking up, but really being able to have that voice and to share with the world is so important. And these are skills that are kind of getting bypassed at this point because so many other things are going on in the world that we're forgetting these things. And, I grew up in the 90s, and these were skills that I was taught because of the situation that I grew up in. In the 90s, we had to go up and ask, excuse me, what are the movie times? Or, sir, where can I find the cereal? And can I order a pizza? We don't have to do that anymore. These little micro conversations that we're having are important because what they do, they build these simple skills so that we can navigate in these more complex areas. And we also aren't necessarily taught how to speak with HR in a way that's with integrity, so that you're having a conversation that you walk away feeling good about and not thinking, I shouldn't have said that, or maybe I said that the wrong way. We really want to be able to know that we have a voice, we can use it effectively, and we can communicate across all types of environments. It's so, so important. And it's something very near and dear to my heart, as you could probably tell.
Well, I could definitely tell that. I mean, I could listen to you all day talk about this, Lenora, but it's very important. That's the thing. That's why I was excited about this. I knew I was going to learn more because it's so important. I feel like, regardless if you're an introvert or someone who feels like they don't want to talk to, they don't like talking to people, it applies to everyone. Because communication, that the amount of confidence effective communication gives you is just invaluable. It's so priceless. It'll X your goals, your ambition in life, and just really your internal dialogue is just going to blossom you into a better, like more person that I feel like we can all be really happy about and love more, and you can actually love others better and communicate with others better in a more intimate capacity, or in a more meaningful capacity, so to speak.
Completely.
Lenora, where can we find you? Where can we learn more about better speech? We'd love, where can we learn more, please?
All those social media links, I'll be sure to share them with you so that they end up in the show notes. We're on YouTube and TikTok and on Facebook and LinkedIn. And those are the best ways to follow us on social media. And if you'd like to reach out to us, we are at betterspeech.com.
Fantastic. The website is betterspeech.com. Ladies and gentlemen, go check that out. If you enjoyed it enjoyed the show as much as I did, go learn more. Go find Lenora. Check out the show notes down there and check out the links. And Lenora, one last bit of wisdom to leave behind the audience. What would it be? Take us home.
Last bit of wisdom. What you say to yourself matters. Allow yourself the right and the opportunity to shift the voices in your head so that you can quite literally go out and make the world a better place.
That's it. Go out, make the world a better place, but start with the world inside you and be kind to yourself. Ladies and gentlemen, Lenora, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Joshua. It's so great speaking with you.
To our audience and listeners out there, I hope you enjoyed this one. The website is betterspeech.com. Check that out, and we will see you on the next one. Bye-bye.
All right, so here's the thing. We try to get a little bit better every day, but we can't do it without you. So if you like the video, make sure to like and subscribe below. And if you have any comments, just leave them in the space under.